So my name is Vickie Kurtz. I teach at on the Hoopa Indian Reservation, which is the largest Indian reservation in California. I was a Carlston recipient in 2011. I've been teaching for 30 years. I teach almost all of the Englishes. I don't teach sophomores, but I teach everyone else. So I have American Lit, British Lit, Composition, and English 1 with 9th graders. But I've taught lots of different ones. I also have a PE credential, so I teach PE sometimes. One of the questions I was asked was about homework, and I often have this conversation with my parents on open house night that if my students come home from school and say they don't have homework from their English teacher, it might very well be true, which is always a surprise to my parents. I learned several years ago that my expectations of homework from my students was pretty arrogant. I had given them something to read and then asked them to go home and write an essay and bring it back. And the next day, one of my students came in very shamefacedly and said, "I'm sorry, Miss Kurtz, I didn't do my homework." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." She was one of my best students, and it surprised me. She said, "But I did write something." And so she turned it in. So, I don't know, a couple of nights later, because I don't think I read them that night, but a couple of nights later, I read that essay. And it was all about how she had gotten home from school off the bus. She'd ridden an hour home on the bus, gotten home, and realized that something was happening at her home. Something not good. And so she grabbed her younger siblings and they ran and hid. And an hour or so later, the cops came and took away her mom and the people that were at her home. And after she felt safe, she got her brothers and sisters out and took them in the house and fed them and got them to bed, fed all their animals, and took care of all their household chores. And by then it was late. And then she had to get up the next morning and get her brothers and sisters ready for school, catch the bus, ride the bus, do all of her chores, ride the bus an hour back to school. And so she had written me how very, very sorry she was that she could not do her homework. And it was like a slap in the face that I was so arrogant that I thought, oh, you know, she can go home and do an essay. I mean, anybody can sit down and write an essay. And never considering, not only did she have 6 other classes, but that she has a life going on at home as well. So from that point on, anytime I assign an essay, I give them days to do it. So I give them a week. And I figure they have to learn how to manage their time. They have a lot of things going on in their lives, so hopefully they can work my essay in on time. I try to make time for everything else at school. I think it's hard to write essays at school because I personally need quiet time to think, but for the most part, everything we do at school. I never give busy work. I personally don't like busy work as a kid, as a student, so I don't give busy work to my kids just so that they're busy. Everything they write, I read, so I'm very cognizant of how much do I want to read as well. So I don't give a lot of homework.